video, we're going to be looking at amplitude and period length of sinusoid equations. If you want to follow along, the links to the companion worksheet are in the description below. Also, don't forget to click that subscribe button so you can be up to date on all the videos that we have coming out on the channel. So let's get started. So what we're given this equation, y equals -4 sine of x, and what we want is the amplitude. Now the amplitude measures how far up and how far down a sinusoid goes from the middle. And so in this case, the amplitude, this one is multiplied by -4. Now the amplitude is 4, and it's not -4. A lot of people make the mistake of saying that it's -4. The negative has no effect on how far up or how far down. And so the quick rule that you'll often see is you'll see books say the absolute value of whatever this number is. Now the period length, we find that with the number that's next to x. But what a lot of people miss up is they often think that, well, the period length is the number in front of x, so the period length is 1. Actually, no. The number in front of x tells us how many cycles there are between 0 and 2 pi, or 0 and 360. So to get the actual period length, what you have to do is you have to take 2 pi divided by 1, and that there's one whole cycle on 2 pi. So the period length of this function is actually 2 pi. So looking at number 2 then, we can see that in front we have the number 2, so that is the amplitude. And the period length, well, it tells us that we have 4 cycles from 0 to 2 pi. So to find the period length, we take 2 pi and we divide it by 4, since there are 4 of them. And so if we simplify that, that means we get pi over 2. That is our period length. So moving down to number 3, here our amplitude is going to be 3. Again, we don't count the negative as part of the amplitude. All the negative does is just turns the graph upside down, but it doesn't make the graph go up or down anymore. So that means our amplitude is 3. And then our period length, well, so we have 1/3 here. That's the number that's being multiplied onto x. Now, a lot of people see, well, you're dividing by 3. But what you really need to think about is what's being multiplied. And so you have to think of this as 1/3 times x. And so between 0 and 2 pi, there is a third of a full cycle. So we take 2 pi and we divide by 1/3. And really, we've never divided fractions ever in math. Instead, what we do is we take 2 pi and we multiply by the reciprocal, 3 over 1. So the period length is 6 pi, which makes sense because 2 pi is 1/3 of 6 pi. And that's how much of the cycle we have. Now for the fourth one, this one is cosine. The other 3 were sine, but the rules stay the same. That is, if I want the amplitude, I look for the number in front, and so that is 0.5. And so the period length, this tells me that within 2 pi, there's 2 pi over 9 amount of a cycle. So I can take 2 pi and divide by 2 pi over 9. And again, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, so that's 2 pi times 9 over 2 pi. And what ends up happening is the 2 pi's, they end up canceling out. So our period length is 9. Now you can't avoid having to do that because if you look back here, it's 2 pi over 9. And so what a lot of people will often do is when they look at this number, they ask, okay, this number is really just 2 pi divided by the period length. And so some people will just ask, all right, what do I divide 2 pi by to get this number? And this is written so easily that 9 has to be the period length. So this is how we find the amplitude and the period length from a sinusoid equation. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. you have suggestions or problems you want to see worked out, type a comment below. To support the channel, click the Patreon link to help keep this going. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, the best way to understand something is to do it.